Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the Voice of Reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And obviously, we have to have a very close look and monitor the ongoings taking place inside of the despotic nation state of Eritrea. Now, obviously, we know that Eritrea has been ruled for well over 30 years now by Isaias Afwerki, who has been the only leader of Eritrea and rules, again, one of the most despotic regimes on the planet, oftentimes burying political opponents in the deserts of the vast badlands of Eritrea in what could only be described as steel boxes. And then those persons are permanently disappeared forever. But also, his power appears to be now waning. He is older. He is now closer to 80 years old. And many of the practices that he used to instill fear in his subordinates, he may no longer be able to do. And one of the common methods that Afwerki would use to I don't want to say maintain loyalty, but instill fear in subordinates, not political enemies necessarily, but those underlings under him, was the use of physical and violent force. He himself would apply beatings. He's a bigger man, about 6'3", so fairly tall for the obviously the region, and he himself has had obviously the use of subordinates beat other subordinates as well. And this had been a common practice throughout his regime, where the use of physical violence and physical beatings was very common in the rank and file of the higher echelons of government, so to speak. If you crossed him, or if you were to do something that angered Isaias Afwerki. And this goes also down to his children as well. And many think that one of his children, most likely Abraham, will inherit the throne. But at the same time, there has also been reports of Afwerki using violence, him personally or by subordinates, against his own son. And his youngest son, Berhane Afwerki, actually attempted to escape the country at one point, and it is reported that he may have not. He's not even in communication with his youngest son at this point. So again, the who's going to take over the reins of power is not a certainty at this point. I think many people believe that his oldest son could eventually take power, but he has handed over, meaning Isaias Afwerki has handed over power to other individuals as well inside of the regime. So it is possible that there could be some sort of coup d'etat, especially as he gets older and is not the physically menacing presence that he once was. That obviously comes with age. And right now there are reports circulating that there could be moves internally being backed by, let's just say, external resources that could be looking at removing Isaias Afwerki from power. And there is some thought that then that would obviously in the any kind of dynastic ambitions that Isaias Afwerki would have had in terms of placing his sons in positions of power. It would probably be, again, his oldest son that would be moved into that position, but you cannot rule out other higher ranking powerful generals that exist that could step up and attempt to kill off his own bloodline, Isaiah Afwerki's bloodline, and then they themselves take over. It is a strongman regime, and the strongest person in the regime will eventually take the reins of power. And as Isaiah Afwerki gets older and older, again getting closer to 80 now, obviously he is becoming more and more paranoid about those around him. And that is not going to get any better as he continues to age, and as some of these other individuals in positions of power maybe look and see him not as the strong man as he once was. And again, we could see some sort of support by external actors, and looking to eventually take over the reins of power. There are obviously a lot of moving pieces that are happening right now. You have what is happening in the Tigray region. The Tigrayan Defense Forces and the Tigrayan leadership have no love loss for Isaias Afwerki, and are probably looking in their own capabilities at looking at removing him from power, as well as probably in the long run a Eritrean leadership that is close to Tigrayan leadership would probably benefit the both of the two nation states. And yes, obviously, I'm calling the Tigray region a nation state because kind of in a de facto manner, that is what it is in fact is at this point. Outside of having its own currency, and has declared formal independence from the former state of Ethiopia, but having that ability, meaning the Tigray region, to access the ports openly and freely in Eritrea, maybe some sort of confederation between Eritrea and Tigray. I believe that the social contract has been broken between Addis Ababa, also known as Finfane, and Mekelle in the Tigray region, in which we will not see ties getting any closer, and we will probably gravitate more towards some sort of full independence or de facto independence, as they currently have, as they have their own fully operational armed forces. But the collapse of the Isaias Afwerki regime would obviously benefit the government in Mekelle greatly, and then possibly a regime or the transition to some sort of democracy would probably bring those two nation states closer at some point. And again, as Afwerki becomes older and more decrepit, and unable to conduct the sort of beatings that he was once able to do. Obviously, he's probably not doing that now. He's having other individuals do that, as he probably had in the past as well. But he was a very ferocious figure in his prime, and he was able to lead by fear, and obviously not by love, so to speak. And that is the regime that has been instituted in that despotic nation of Eritrea. Again, probably as, if not more, despotic than even North Korea in some aspects, in terms of the brutality and the rule by sheer force, not just against regime adversaries, but actual regime members themselves would often find themselves getting beatings from a security personnel very much loyal to SASF Worky, or as SASF Worky himself. But again, reports are starting to surface that something could be in the works in terms of the eventual some sort of upheaval, military coup d'etat, possible assassination plots have been reported, and we hear that at least in terms of his movements, Afwerki's movements, he's really all over the place. He, in all probability, is operating much like Saddam Hussein did prior to the in-between years between the first Gulf War and the 2003 invasion of Iraq, where he was very mobile and moving to various presidential locations, and really no one knew where he was at a certain point, with the vast bunker complexes and security complexes throughout the country. That is the regime that he is instituted. And what's now ironic is we're starting to see that now, as I talked about in previous episodes as well, that sort of process and mentality taking shape further south in Addis Ababa with Abiy Ahmed. He is also showing despotic tendencies that indicate, such as the creation of these Praetorian Guards, the Republican Guards, the expansion of certain security forces that both augment and run parallel to the regular army in some cases. And those are the sorts of institutions that are indicative of what you see from some of these despotic rulers, and we're starting to see that now take shape as well in the former state of Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, with Abiy Ahmed as well. So, birds of a feather fly together, and that's all I have for today. Have a good day, everybody.